Welcome to another counselor training. This training is on what we call the DNA code, and we're getting this from Gary Smalley's book, DNA of Relationships. And we're going to be talking about the fear dance and the care cycle and how to take care of yourself when your buttons are hit. First of all, we're made for relationships, and relationships is really what life is about. All the rest is just details. We have an ability to choose. We can choose, we have an ability to choose how we're going to respond. We have an ability to choose whether we're going to take care of our emotions or not. And with that, we also have a responsibility. And when we're in conflict, often we put all the responsibility for our feelings on the other person. And our hope is that if we can change them, we will feel better, which is very frustrating because there's a freedom of choice. We can't make somebody else do something. And when we don't respect that freedom of choice, it becomes really frustrating, and of course, we don't get anywhere. What we can do is we can take responsibilities for ourselves. And we're going to be talking about that and how do we take responsibility for our emotions. As a young person, when you're growing up, you learn all kinds of tasks. You learn how to, when you're hungry, you learn how to feed yourself. You learn how to drink, how to take care of all of your physical needs so that by the time you're an adult, you can do all those tasks very well. Unfortunately, a lot of us have not learned how to do the emotional side of caring for ourselves very well. And so when we're sad, we want somebody else to make us happy. Or when we're angry, we want somebody else to do something to make us feel better. And one of the premises for the DNA of relationships is that we are responsible for our emotions. We are responsible for our feelings, and we're responsible to take care of them. It's not anybody else's responsibility. Once you're an adult, they're your responsibilities, just like everything else. So conflict, I want to talk a little bit about conflict. Conflict is never just about the other person. We all come into conflict with a lot of history. And a lot of our conflict has a lot more to do with past stuff and past experiences than it does with the person who's in front of us. And as much as we'd like to blame all of our feelings on the person in front of us, the truth is there's a lot more there than just them. There's a lot more history to that. And they are just somebody who has what we call hit a button. They have found a spot where we have a hurt and they've triggered it again. In conflict, we want to learn how to put ourselves in the other person's shoes, because just like we have buttons and we have feelings and there's things that are getting triggered for us, the same goes for the other person. And when we can step back and lay aside our judgment and decide, and come in with that attitude of curiosity, it enables us to resolve the conflict and to get to a place of understanding and hopefully a win-win. We also need to look at this problem from God's perspective. It's easy when we're in the middle of all the emotions to start seeing things wrong. And so pausing and asking God, can you help me see this conflict from your point of view? What am I missing? And we're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail, just a little bit. When we have choice, we have an ability to change things. And when we're in relationship, when we take responsibility for our feelings, we have the power. If we're responsible for how we're feeling, then that means we have the power to take our feelings in a different direction. But if the other person is responsible, then we place all the power in their hands. And that's a very frustrating place. And if you can think of one of your really frustrating conflicts in your life, you'll realize that you have placed all the power in the other person's hands. That if they would change this, and they would just stop doing that, or if they wouldn't do this, then I would feel better. And when you do that, you lose all your power. You're a helpless victim. But when you realize, well, I have a choice. I have an ability to decide where I want to go. I have an ability to do something about my feelings. That enables you to have an ability to change, which is a very hopeful thing.
What are you doing?
Looking at the hat.
Why are you stealing it? That's my hat.
What?
That's my
I'm just
hat.
looking at it. Hey!
Yo!
Hey girls, are you girls okay? Hey, let's come over here, okay? Come over here. So Sybil, how did it make you feel when Katie took your hat?
Like she was taking something of mine and I was losing something of mine.
Yeah. Have you ever felt like that before?
Yes.
Yeah. How did you feel like that? Tell me about that.
Well, people always take stuff at my house and I never have my own stuff and I have to share a room and my siblings are always taking it.
Yeah, that's
It's
really
mine.
hard.
Yeah.
It's no fun. Katie, did you hear what Sybil said? Yeah. Yeah, do you understand that? I guess. Well, how did you feel when Sybil said that you were stealing her hat? Like she was trying to, like she was accusing me of something I didn't do? Yeah. Have you ever felt like people have accused you of something you didn't do before in life? My cousin got put in jail for stealing everybody's something and ended up like her. Oh, that's really hard. Do you understand that, Sybil?
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe she wasn't trying to steal it. Maybe she was just trying to look at it. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Katie, do you understand why Sybil got kind of angry? Yeah. Yeah. Because she felt like the hat was being taken away. Yeah. Can you guys ask each other can you guys apologize to each other? I'm sorry.
Sorry, Katie.
Hey, what's a way we can say that nicely that the other person feels like you really meant it?
I'm sorry, Katie, for making you feel like that.
I forgive you. I'm sorry I made you feel like that too. I'm sorry.
So I want to talk to you now about something we call fear cycle. I'm going to draw out a conflict. We're going to see how it progresses and how, well, you'll see as we do it. All right, so picture in your mind's eye view. You have a counselor and he is just getting out of the wagon in the morning and the team is running late. And Johnny is insisting that he needs to get something out of his bag. Now, in this situation, the counselor is running late, all right, so he's feeling like a failure. So what does he start doing? He starts trying to control the camper. Johnny, you can't do that right now. We need to get going. Forget about your stuff. You should have had it ready earlier, all right? Now, when the counselor makes that statement, it hits a button for Johnny. And for Johnny, it hits a button for him of feeling trapped and powerless because he really, really wants to make sure he takes his flashlight that's in his bag because he doesn't want it to disappear. And that's happened to him before. So when the counselor says forget about it, he feels trapped, he feels controlled. And so he reacts by getting angry. And he says, well, we're just late because you woke us up late. It's your fault. And he attacks his counselor. All right, so of course, what button does that hit for the counselor? That hits his failure button again, right? Because now the camper has blamed him for being late, right? So the counselor, he hears the camper's response, and he responds. His buttons have been hit. So he attacks the camper. And he says, you're not being respectful. You're going to need to do push-ups. And he starts attacking the camper. Of course, what button does that hit for the camper? He's being trapped again, right? And now he's being judged, right? Because he was worried about his backpack. And that's another button he has is feeling judged. And so he responds by throwing down his flashlight and running off out of the wagon and running somewhere in the woods. And of course, what does the counselor feel? Now the counselor feels powerless. And he also feels like a failure again because now I can't even motivate my camper. And that's kind of a fear cycle. But as you look through it, you realize that there's a feeling and then there's a reaction. And unfortunately, when we get into these kinds of situations, what we focus on for ourselves is our feeling. This is what I felt. What we focus on for the other person is not their feeling, but their reaction. And we're focused on, why did they react that way? They reacted wrong. When in reality, we're both feeling these feelings that we need to deal with. And these feelings are motivating the reaction. And what are we trying to change? We're trying to change their reaction, of course, and they're focusing on changing our reaction. Of course, neither one of us can control that in the other person. We're powerless in that way. But what we can control, and what we're not focusing, is on our feelings and on our reactions. So what do we do? What do we do when somebody nails one of our buttons and we start getting uptight? Well, that's what we're talking about next. That's what we call the care cycle. When your button gets nailed, we need to have a default of, oh, something just happened. I feel angry, right? And you all know what you feel like when that happens. Maybe for some people, all of a sudden your jaw gets tight, you clench your fists. For other people, there's just a feeling of maybe being really small, just feeling, oh, I'm kind of trapped and powerless. But we all have our feelings, and learning to be aware of, oh, this is that feeling. Enables you to start making different choices. And the first choice you're going to make is you're going to make a choice that, oh wow, somebody just nailed one of my buttons. I'm going to pause. I'm going to take care of my feeling, because that's one thing I can take care of is my feelings. I can't control my camper's reaction. I can't control my camper's feelings, but I can control my feelings. I can take care of my feelings, I should say, and I can control my reaction. So we have 5 A's that we use to describe the care cycle. The first one is being aware. Being aware of, oh wow, somebody just nailed one of my buttons. I am upset. Once we're aware of, oh wow, something just happened here. What just happened? That enables us to pause, right? We talked about the fear cycle. We can pause. We're feeling our emotion. We can pause and say, oh wow, something just happened here, and that's the aware part. The next is becoming aware of our feelings. And the next part is accepting. We're going to accept responsibility. Instead of blaming our camper and saying, if they would just change their actions, if they would just change their behavior, we're going to take responsibility for our feelings. So we're going to accept responsibility, and we're also going to accept our feelings. Because our feelings are there. If I bang my funny bone really hard on the chair, my hand is going to feel like it's on fire. Now, did I really burn my hand? No, I banged my funny bone. But that feeling is telling me something just happened that's wrong. It's not right. Something's wrong, right? The same is true with our feelings. They're not right or wrong. They just are. They're just telling us something happened. And then we have to respond to that and take responsibility for that. So we're going to accept our feelings too. We're not going to say, okay, I'm angry. I shouldn't be angry. Okay, I'm not angry. We're going to say, oh, I'm angry. Why am I angry? Okay, we're going to accept that feeling rather than rejecting it or trying to stuff it or something like that. So we're going to accept responsibility and we're going to accept our feelings. Ask. This is where we ask God, I am feeling, go ahead and spell it out. I'm feeling these emotions. And I ask that you would come and you would help me take responsibility for my feelings and help me to know the truth and help me as I process this. In James, it says, if anyone lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives to all men liberally and he doesn't chide us for asking. And of course, we use this a lot for life situations, but what is more important, life situations or relationships? Obviously, it's relationships. So in relationships, God wants us to ask God, what's going on here? Help me to take responsibility for my emotions. The next A is attend. This is where we start taking things apart and really looking at them. The first question we want to ask is, in the attend is, what am I feeling? Okay, I'm feeling angry, but anger is not really a primary emotion. Usually we feel something before we feel angry. So maybe I felt This counselor, before he felt angry, he felt like a failure, right? So he felt like a failure, and then he felt angry. So, oh yeah, it's like a failure kind of anger versus somebody took advantage of me type of anger. So, okay, so I'm feeling angry, and I'm feeling angry because I feel like I'm a failure. What other feelings are there? Well, I'm not feeling like, I'm kind of feeling alone in this trying to be a counselor thing. Okay, well, there's another feeling. Then he wants to ask himself, have I felt this way before? Because chances are you have, right? We talked about that earlier. We come with all of our baggage. There's a lot of past there, right? And he could remember, I remember being late for some game and just feeling really, really bad when I got there because my coach was mad at me. And I remember being late for school and getting in the trouble there. So yeah, that kind of just being late again just kind of stirred all that up. Okay, well that's nice to know that I got a little bit of history in that failure button and being late. It's not all about my camper. Then you want to ask, what is the truth? So what is the truth in this situation? Is the camper thinking, I want to make my counselor late and make him feel bad and make him look like a bad counselor? Nope. He's worried about his flashlight. It's a completely different thing for the counselor to realize, okay, his flashlight's really important for him. So that's the truth. His flashlight's really important to him, and he's trying to get it quick, and we're running late. It's my first day here as a counselor. I need to give myself a break. Relationships on the team are actually more important to me than whether we're on time. And then actually there's another part, there's another question you can ask too. What am I doing to make the problem worse? Sometimes there's a lot of things we can do to make things worse. In this situation, the counselor was rushing the camper and attacking the camper. So now he's going to be really late because the camper just ran off, right? Instead of saying, okay, well, where's your flashlight? Let's see if we can get that really quick. There's some other ideas that he could do, but what he did made it a lot worse by attacking the camper. And we make our relationships a lot worse. And usually that's the reactions that we're doing that is making the situation worse. So being able to ask those questions and then ask himself, how do I want to respond? How do I want this situation to end? And the next part is taking action. This is where maybe you go and talk to the person who hurt you. Maybe it's just realizing, you know what? I'm okay. I think I can just be okay with this. Sometimes it's forbearing. Sometimes it's, you know what? I need to create a boundary. My campers are always jumping on my back. It hurts when they jump on my back. And yeah, I snapped at him when he just did it this last time. But I need to create a boundary. So, okay, Johnny, you are really important to me, and I love the fact you're having a great time at camp, and I want to give you piggybacks, but I'm getting tired because my back's getting sore. So I'll tell you what, 2 piggybacks a day, and that's it. That's all I can bear. And now he's communicated. But he's created a boundary as well. So sometimes there's a lot of different things that you can do, but pausing and asking God, what's wrong and how can I respond? And what's this really about? Is really going to get you in a place where you're empowered to respond in a better way. I have one last thing I want to share with you, and this is new. We got this from Extended Family for Kids. This is what we call the emotional continuum. When you've been able to do that pause and de-escalate and kind of realize what's going on, it's still important that you talk, that you express what you are feeling. And so we have this tool we call the emotional continuum. And the first thing in the continuum is what we call our pre-stuff. This is what I came into the situation with, right? Remember I talked about, the being late basketball game, being late for school. That was the pre-stuff, right? And the counselor could say, you know what? You can say as camper, I was hoping that we would be at the dining hall on time, so that I just really wanted to make our first day at camp be a great day, and I wanted to go on time. And when you had to pause and get your flashlight, I was disappointed because I realized, wow, this is going to mess things up. We are not going to be on time. And I was hurt. because I felt like it didn't really matter to you, and I actually got angry. I was angry because I felt like you didn't care. And on this point, the counselor probably needs to say, and you know what, I responded wrong, and I'm sorry for that. I wasn't understanding about your flashlight. I'm sorry about that. But this is sharing his feelings. This is sharing him. And the camper, he could say, and he asked the camper, so what was your hope or expectation? He said, well, you know, I was so excited to get my backpack, and I had a flashlight in it, and I was going to show it to my brother. And at breakfast time, I was excited about showing him my flashlight. And I was disappointed because I couldn't find it, and it didn't seem like my expectation was that you'd understand and you'd care, but I was disappointed because you didn't. It seemed like you didn't care at all. And I was actually hurt because you yelled at me then, and I got angry and I ran off. And that would be sharing this, all right? And then your campers, when they have conflicts, this is a good way to help them talk it through. What was your hope, expectation? What was your disappointment? How did you feel hurt? And what were you angry about? And being able to share this enables them to have a relationship again. Enables them to understand each other. In Proverbs, Solomon talked a whole lot about wisdom and understanding. And wisdom is that knowing the right thing to do in a situation. But understanding is that deeper knowledge of why people respond the way they do, why life is the way it is. And wisdom is more forward-focused, understanding is more past-focused. But this gets you to a place of better understanding toward each other's. And it really gets you to a place where next time you're both going to be a little bit more sensitive to each other's needs. All right, well, that's it. We have a couple resources. You'll want to do your test. But this week, I really want to challenge you. Find a conflict, draw out your fear cycle, and then do a care cycle and see how it works. And last of all, try an emotional continuum. It really is a great tool. And we're glad you're able to catch this training, and we look forward to seeing you next time.